Everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to delve into suffering, which doesn't sound like a really fun topic, and I don't think it's going to be, but we're gonna kind of talk about it, and not so much suffering in the sense of what our bodies are going through. We're going to talk about it in suffering of others, and how that can affect us as we're going through ascension, and understanding, being able to distance yourself from the person and the soul. Okay, because when we go through ascension ourselves, it is a huge it's a huge process. We're always going through a certain stage of it. There's a lot of physical body stuff to it. There's a lot of physical body clearing to it. And when we start going through that, for a lot of us, we didn't know what was going on either. So we might have been going from doctor to doctor, trying to figure out what's going on. Why is my body all of a sudden not reacting to, I can't take the medication I used to be able to take and keep things under, control? Or why is everything kind of starting to go haywire? And a lot of this stuff starts to go haywire because our body is changing and we're clearing. And sometimes that comes with pain, it comes with discomfort. Eventually, for a lot of us, we start to understand what's going on because we started researching it. We started looking at it. Why is my body going through this? We can find some amazing people who've been going through it, and they talk about it like we talk about it on this channel, or lots of other channels do it too. So we come to kind of an understanding of what our body is trying to go through. Like, why do I keep hitting my elbow 100 times? Because I'm trying to clear a program in my elbow. And when I hit it, it dislodges it. Right? It just kind of shakes that program loose. I mean, I took a massive whack on the head a couple months ago. And it was really kind of driving my whole system. But it shifted a lot for me. But I had something in there that had to dislodge. And that's how my universe did it. So we kind of find ourselves going through processes like this. Well, you could hit something repeatedly. You might go through a lot of stomach stuff. You might go through blood pressure changes. You might go through heart palpitations. There's a lot of stuff our body is trying to adjust to. Lung stuff, because the air in the ascended realities is different than the air we breathe in carbon-based realities, if that makes sense. So when we are in an environment and we start upgrading an area, right, to support our vibration is higher than someone else's vibration in the area, we can start to cause almost like a ripple effect. Now, it's not that these people living with you, it's part of kind of the soul pact in a sense. You might upgrade the surroundings, and then the people who live with you are going to feel that upgrade, and then their body's going to start to upgrade because their surroundings are upgrading. So they're going to start going through physical stuff. And whether you're the catalyst or not, for a lot of us, you are going to be the catalyst to that upgrade, but you're just allowing them the space for their body to start to shift and their body to start to change. Now, for other people, you might not even really be around them, and they're just going through their own process where now it's their time to start going through physical stuff, and they're starting to see some of the choices they've made along the way. And even if they can't see those choices along the way, you can see them. You can see, I know why they're where they are right now, because every choice they made, you could see the timeline they were creating and the dimension they were in and how it was going to end. But even though we can understand it, and we can understand when we go through it, when we start to see other people go through it, especially people that our human has an attachment to, husbands, wives, sisters, brothers, friends, mothers, fathers, children, it can start to really take a toll on us because we don't want to see others suffering, right? We don't want to see that. We don't want to see other people in these modes and other people trying to understand through our human consciousness what's going on. And we can see it from a higher consciousness, and we might understand, I kind of know what's going on. How do I explain that? Or can we even explain that? Is there a point to explain that? I mean, I know people that can take, tons of things the doctor will prescribe, and if you give them anything, natural or organic or an herb, something like whatever, a garlic supplement or turmeric, anything that happens to their body after that, it has to be that. It has to be the homeopathic stuff. It's not any of this other stuff I'm taking. So you can start to really see the unconsciousness and how ingrained it is. And when you understand that it's so ingrained that it's going to take a lot to pull these people out, and some people are going to choose not to pull out in their current bodies. They're going to choose to ascend, through death and come back in a different body and ascend through that body, and they're going to go out a different way in a sense. And this triggers a lot in us. Because when you start to see people around you suffering, and then that's more the target of what I want to talk about today, not much our own, but, others, it starts to really, you want to do everything you can to assist them, even though there's a part of you that might understand. It's a big part of you. 90% of you can understand. 100% of you really will understand. But there's a part of you that wish it didn't have to be that way. You wish it could be a different way. You wish they wouldn't have to go through that. You wish their body wasn't doing that. Then there's a part of you that understands, but that's how it has to be based on the timelines they've created. And no matter what you do to try to assist in that, could you make it better? Perhaps, but if they're not open to that, there's not much you can do, and you have to let them play out the timeline. And it doesn't matter who they are to you. The human connection doesn't matter. Because you have to respect their soul and what their soul wants to do. And if the human is rejecting anything you're trying to do, even if there's someone accepting it, which is another way it can go, sometimes when you start to raise their body's vibration, they've got to clear stuff, which could lead to more stuff going haywire. And it feels like you're on a hamster loop trying to assist this. It's like you're in a boat and one hole springs. You try to plug that hole, and you got 5 more going on because their body just wants to clear. I had someone tell me, the body wants to. They use the word heal, and we'll use it here, but it wants to. It wants to heal itself. It wants to bring itself back to its original template. It wants to do that. So any opening it has to start that, it's going to do that. But and a lot of our human consciousness starts to come in because we have so many attachments to the people. And we don't want to see them like that. We don't want to witness that. We don't want to have to sit through it. But there's a reason why a lot of us do, because we have to be able to have compassion for what's going on, but understand the bigger reason for it. And a lot of us, when you get to certain parts of your ascension, you're going to really start to see this. And we see it a lot right now. I see it with a lot of people I know personally, going through it. Going through it, and a lot of them, they don't know. It's this, it's that. It's ascension. And that's a lot of it. And that's something you can't treat. It's something you can't fix. It's their time. It's their time. And if they're about to clear something, they're going to clear it. And it's going to be painful for them. It's going to be painful for them. And just like it was for us. And if it's something we can do, and we might see to do something. Because a lot of times I'll suggest this, offer this advice. But a lot of times it might not be open to it. And you can just see the level of unconsciousness that has to clear. And that, to me, sometimes can be the most gut-wrenching thing you can feel, because you can just see how deep ingrained it is. How much has to clear. How much they're going to have to go through to get there. And it's just not comfortable, for a human to have to watch that. And that's why when you start getting to these parts of your process, a lot of your human consciousness, it has become the smallest part of you in a lot of ways. I mean, you can feel it, and you remember, you also have an agreement to assist these people. And if just you being there is raising the vibration so their body can clear, you are assisting them. And there might be nothing you can do, and nothing they want you to do or will, permit you to do to make that clearing easier. You're still fulfilling a soul agreement by raising their vibration, and you might not like what it looks like, you might not how it's happening, you might not know how it's going to end. But you understand on some level, on a soul level, that's what you're supposed to be here for. That's why you're here. That's what you're doing here. It's not we have this picture when we start our process, even after we've maybe gone through some of our physical upgrades, and you get to a different part of it, and you feel like you've come to a part, your vibrations at a part where you can assist so many people. And when you feel a resistance, it's almost like it jars us back a little bit, because we like, why would you be resistant to it? This is gonna, I don't want you to have to go through what I went through. I want it to be easier for you. So open up, right? Or whatever, however we feel about it, and a lot of times this is our own test we have to go through. It's kind of like, we put our own oxygen mask on, and now you can help someone else, but they don't really want that. They're too resistant to it. They haven't bottomed out enough yet. And for some people, that bottoming out might be they ascend in a different body later on, in a different timeline somewhere else. And there's not a lot we can do if that's the choices they're making, and that's the agreement they had when they came into the current body they're in. It makes us feel so many emotions, and the other part is they're doing us a service of helping us clear those emotions. And when we start clearing those emotions, we start to clear the attachment. We start to understand. We might still wish it could be a different way. Wish and hope are kind of the killers in general, because there's no wishing and hoping in ascension. It is what it is. It's beautiful and magical, but if we're wishing and hoping for a change, and if we're not willing to change, and other people aren't willing to change, there's no wishing and hoping. It's just, it's so ingrained. Even though you can see them ticking up and shifting here and there, when things get really tough, and usually that's when the physical stuff comes in, or sometimes the financial stuff. It's usually the health of the financial stuff that really can get them, and that's what got us. They kind of revert back to even going more unconscious, and that's what we would do too. So you can see it playing out in front of you, and you can understand on a higher level why it's playing out, but then you can sit and go, why do I still feel so terrible? Why are you also maybe trying to interfere and prevent it, and trying to do whatever you can to maybe put a band-aid on it? And I've caught myself doing that. Maybe we can try this, we can try all these things that I know aren't aligned, but it's just to ease the discomfort, to ease the discomfort of the person, so they're not so uncomfortable. Even though you can look at, I know I'm reiterating this, but you can just see how unconsciousness, how deep under they are, and the level they're going to have to go through to get all of that out, and the amount of physical body upgrades that's going to take. Are they really going to be there for that whole journey? And these are just things we really have to be honest with ourselves about, come to grips with, what am I supposed to do? What is highest line for me to do? And a lot of times we switch roles. We end up playing kind of the mother to everyone. It doesn't matter what age anyone is in their human existence. We kind of start playing the mother role. And there's a point where when babies learn to walk, you want to, you hate when they fall. It breaks your heart when they fall. And they get all the boo-boos on their knees, and you just don't want them to continue to hurt themselves. But there's also a part of you that knows what they have to learn. They have to learn to walk. If not, we're going to be lugging them around when they're 70 pounds. They have to learn to do this. This is important. And it kind of reverts back to the same thing later on. They're learning to walk in an ascended body. Their body is trying to ascend. Now, whether they're going to allow that, whether human consciousness is going to take over and not allow that, it's going to go one way or the other. There's no avoiding ascension. What can we do? What do we feel like we are being guided to do? And what do we feel like we're being compliant with what they want us to do, in a sense? And that doesn't mean going unconscious with them, though you might find yourself going through spaces of that and saying, we'll do all these things. And even though I can remember whether none of that is aligned, why are we even suggesting these things? We're just trying to band-aid the boo-boo, and hoping they won't fall again, knowing that they are. When you're in these phases, And when you're going through and watching it play out and play out, and there's a lot of it playing out this year, you know, you see so many soul, you know, I always say when you see a lot of, especially you see it more in the celebrity world because that's what people kind of have a focus on. It gets on the news. And it was always this thing where celebrities, they went in threes, right? One would go and, you know, two more were going soon too. They were in the same soul group. You know, it didn't matter anything of these people never knew each other, were never related. They were in the same soul group. You know, we had Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan go within like 2 days of each other. They're in the same soul group. They're in the same grouping that went together, and you might start seeing that a lot, whether it be, you know, magnified on TV or just in your daily existence, walking around your reality and seeing it. Like, oh, I didn't know this person was related to this person, but on a soul level they are. Technically on a soul level we all are. But you can just start to see the groupings, and no matter how drastically everyone seemed apart, it goes beyond. It doesn't matter, you know, race, religion, political affiliation, none of that matters to the soul. Their soul group, they're coming in to do certain things, influence certain things, push certain things forward. I mean, that's what we're all here to do. So when you're in these places, you're in these spaces, and you're seeing it play out, I want to say don't despair. There is a higher purpose to it. And it is almost like a test to see, can you see it? Do you understand what's going on? Can you see what's going on? Can you see what the body's trying to do? Maybe the body's just shutting down, and that's what the body's trying to shut down. Because the soul needs to move on so it can move on to a different body so it can do this somewhere else. Because it's not going to happen here. That was never the original agreement. That's not what that soul originally signed on to, and it's not going to happen here. Take the relationship out of it. And I know it's easy to say that, take the relationship out of it. But that's what the soul does. That's what higher ascended beings do. Your embodied aspects, your higher embodied aspect, that's what it does. It takes it away. It doesn't mean you're not going to grieve it. It doesn't mean you're not going to have a lot of stuff coming up because of it. But those are things that are also trying to clear your body so you can see, is there something I can really do to assist, or is this kind of, it's nothing I can do? These are choices made decades ago. I mean, a lot of us who've been working through our Akash and working through clearing up our karma, I mean, you can see something that happens today, and you can go back and you might have a memory of something you did 20 years ago. And be like, oh shit, this is the karmic payback for that thing I did 20 years ago. That's why that thing pops in your head. It's an energetic string that you just snapped. You know, you just kind of paid that back. It's like, oh, I remember when I did that 20 years ago, and okay, well now I just kind of I balanced my scale on that. Now I'm balanced again. I paid back that karmic debt. I cleared that part of my Akash. You might be able to see that for that person, and you can see how much has to go, how much has to clear. And is there easier ways to do it? Yeah, there are easier ways to do it in a sense, but sometimes most human consciousness, it doesn't want the easy way. It's going to fight it. It doesn't want to go through ascension, because ascension means it loses its power, and the human consciousness does not want to lose its power. It's the only thing it has. It's the illusion of power. And it's life, it's human existence, it's human life. And you will be surprised when you really look at what's going on with people and the level of unconsciousness. And even to flip it, you know, I've watched people go through a lot of, you know, suffering, and they were in higher consciousness states. And maybe they weren't embodying, maybe they were still keeping themselves separate. There might have been a lot of things going on with that. Because I'm not going to say that I was completely ingrained in their life. Enough to see it, like a lot of us become later on when it starts to happen to people around us, because we do affect the field. But that's what we were supposed to do. You find yourself in certain places with certain people at certain times of their life plan, because there's stuff you're supposed to do there. Whether you're physically doing it or you're energetically doing it, that doesn't matter. You're there because you were supposed to be there. That was part of your soul contract, and now you're here. And you're doing what you're supposed to do. And if that's just raising the vibration of a space, and is it playing hell in everyone's body? Maybe. But could you also be saving them for something way worse later on? Even though what you might be witnessing now might not look very comfortable, and you there's a part of you that's like, I really wish this could go a different way. it could be a lot worse the other way. But because you might not be able to see the other way, or you're not directly witnessing the other way, the way in front of you seems pretty bleak. But it might not be. It might be the best way through for the choices they made and the soul contracts they had. So I did want to throw that out there. I know a lot of people are going through this right now. I'm going through it myself with others. Just try to keep your consciousness and your light and your field as high as you can keep it, and really be able to look. Because you might figure out, oh, I can see some things that might be going on with them. Maybe they're open to this. Maybe they're not open to this. It's okay either way. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you might just see what's going on, but you might know, okay, I'm just going to have to let this play out because this is what their soul wants. We tend to forget that everyone has higher aspects. Everyone has their own soul that's orchestrating this. Just because that might not be the part you're interacting with doesn't mean they don't have one. Doesn't mean they don't have all these things. That's just not the part you're talking to when you're talking to them about these things. That's not the part you have in front of you. So we tend to think, oh, they don't have one. They need me to do it. They need me to be their higher self. They need me to control everything. That's not our job. We're going to fill certain parts of our contract what we're supposed to do. Some of us might know what that is. Some of us might not at this point. And it depends on where you are in your ascension, how open you are to knowing. Sometimes we don't want to know. When you really want to know, you'll know. When you clear the part of you that is resistant to knowing, you'll know what's going on. So be open to that. Don't shut the door because you don't like what you're seeing people go through. So I'll leave it at that today. And this is not one of the fun party ones, but I think it's worth being sad. I think it's worth really exploring it and feeling where you feel the resistance to it. I know that's something I've had to look at a lot lately is why am I so resistant? Why is this so tough to watch? But it's all that attachment we have. And a lot of you might know years ahead that this person's going to go through this. I had years warning that a couple people are going to go through this. But when it starts to hit, it kind of is a different story. And we get those warnings in our dreams. I like to call them warnings. Really not warnings. They're more like you can just see that timeline playing out. If certain things didn't shift. If they don't shift behavior, that's what's going to play out. And then you start to see it play out. And you also can understand that sometimes we have to go on and do other things. We can't go on and do the next step of our journey if we're tied down to all these other things. A lot of things are going to get kind of just going to start to melt away because we have to move forward. We have to go on. And we can't do that with a lot of this stuff kind of tying us to one reality. When we're done, we're done. And I've said this 100 times. You can drag something on forever. When the soul's done, it's done. When their soul's done, it's done. And it can be just like that. Whereas you might have wanted it to end for 3 years prior and you just waited, dragged on and dragged on. When it's done, it's done. And when you start getting to, I think, is the end here? Is the end almost here? That was a line from a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode. I'll bring a little levity in at the end where the bad guy's like, did she say the end was here or did she say the end is near? I couldn't hear it because he had just the one of the good guys. When it might be near, it might be here. Normally we knew it was coming because so we can start detaching. We can start mourning because our human does need to grieve it. It needs to come out of the body. They've agreed to do that service for us to help us bring up those emotions. It's always a two-way street. It's not we're the only ones doing anything and we're getting nothing back. We're getting a clearing out of it too. So, all right, I will end on that one. Okay, keep practicing the art of intuition.